Ever feel like, you get stuck in your ways? Like the beliefs that made you successful could actually be holding you back.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind Adam Grant's book, Think Again.
Right.
And that's what we're going to, explore in this deep dive.
Okay.
We've got Grant's book, of course, plus a couple of his interviews.
Okay.
And we're going to, unpack all of it.
That's good.
Just for you.
Well, it's more than just, like personal stubbornness.
Okay.
Grant's talking about, a fundamental mindset problem that can impact us as individuals,
Right.
but also organizations,
Oh, wow.
even like whole societies.
Yes. Okay, so let's unpack this mindset problem.
Okay.
Grant argues that most of us get trapped in thinking like
Yeah.
preachers, prosecutors, or politicians.
And each of those mindsets comes with its own pitfalls.
Yeah.
The preacher thinks they've found the ultimate truth
Okay.
and they need to convert everyone else.
Right.
The prosecutor just wants to win arguments,
Mm-hmm.
prove others wrong,
Yeah.
and the politician always seeking approval,
Okay.
telling people exactly what they want to hear.
So where do we see this, playing out in the real world?
Think about how some CEOs were completely against remote work before the pandemic.
Really?
They were in full-on preacher mode,
Oh.
claiming it would destroy their company culture.
Okay.
But then, boom, the pandemic hits,
Yeah.
and they're forced to embrace remote work.
Talk about a missed opportunity.
I know, right?
All that time they could have been experimenting,
Yeah.
figuring out the best ways to make remote work, work.
Right.
Yeah.
If they had approached it like scientists,
Mm-hmm.
testing and refining their approach,
Yeah.
who knows what they could achieve?
So how do we ditch the preacher, prosecutor, and politician hats and start thinking more like scientists?
It's not about, getting a lab coat.
Mm.
It's about looking at your beliefs as theories that need to be constantly tested and refined. You're looking for evidence, not just clinging to what you already think you know.
This reminds me of that study Grant mentions where startup founders who were taught to think like scientists ended up making 40 times more revenue.
It's amazing.
40 times. And the reason, they weren't afraid to pivot.
Okay.
They saw their initial product launches as experiments,
Right.
not as some grand declaration of absolute truth.
So how can you apply this, scientific thinking to your own projects? Maybe start by viewing your next goal as an experiment.
Okay.
What hypotheses are you testing? What data will you collect to track your progress? And crucially, how are you going to adapt based on the results you get?
That's the scientific mindset in action.
Wow.
Now, of course, we need a balance.
Okay.
It's great to have this scientific doubt, but we also need a healthy dose of confidence to actually get things done.
That's where confident humility comes in.
Confident humility.
Yeah.
I love that term.
It's about having confidence in your ability to learn.
Okay.
You don't have to have all the answers right now, but you believe that you can find them.
Right.
Think about someone like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx.
Right.
She didn't start out as an expert in the apparel industry,
Yeah.
but she had confidence in her ability to learn and figure things out.
So it's not about pretending to have all the answers.
Right.
It's about believing in your own potential to grow and figure things out, even if you make mistakes along the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
To truly embrace rethinking, we need to detach ourselves from our past beliefs and identities.
Okay.
You know how sometimes we get stuck in our assumptions
Yeah.
without even realizing it?
Yeah.
Grant calls that cognitive entrenchment.
Cognitive entrenchment. Sounds
Yeah.
like something you'd need a mental shovel for.
It's a lot more common than you might think.
Wow.
And it's not just about, cognitive biases.
Okay.
There's also the fear of looking bad,
Right.
of being rejected by our group if we change our minds.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No one wants to admit they were wrong. It feels like a blow to the ego.
Right.
Yeah.
But Grant has a fascinating exercise for overcoming this.
Okay.
He suggests writing a compassionate letter to yourself about a past mistake.
Oh, wow.
Offering yourself the same kindness and understanding you'd give a friend.
What a powerful idea.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing those past missteps as something to be ashamed of,
Right.
we can look at them as valuable learning opportunities.
Exactly.
I love that.
It's a total reframing.
Yeah.
And on that note,
Uh-huh.
another important element of rethinking
Okay.
is building a challenge network.
A challenge network. So not just surrounding yourself with people who agree with everything you say.
Exactly. Well, it's great to have, supportive friends and colleagues, we also need people who will constructively critique us, push us to think differently.
Yeah.
Grant calls these folks disagreeable givers.
Disagreeable givers.
Yeah.
Okay.
They offer tough love because they truly care about our growth.
I'm starting to think those disagreeable givers might be the real MVPs in our lives.
Yeah.
They're the ones who help us see our blind spots and push us to be better.
And remember, you don't have to wait for someone to challenge you.
Okay.
You can actively seek out those dissenting perspectives.
Oh, interesting.
You could even start by asking yourself, like, simple questions. Like, what evidence would change my mind about this?
Okay.
That's a technique used by super forecasters.
Oh, yeah.
Those folks who are incredibly accurate at predicting future events.
The super forecasters.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by those folks.
Yeah.
They were like the mental athletes of the prediction world.
It's not necessarily about, like, raw intelligence, though.
Okay.
What sets them apart is their willingness to update their predictions. They detach themselves from their past forecasts,
right,
viewing them as, snapshots in time, rather than reflections of their identity.
So they're not emotionally invested in being right.
Right.
They're more focused on getting closer to the truth.
Exactly.
Even if that means, like, admitting they were off the mark before.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And one of their key techniques is creating a list of conditions that would change their mind.
Oh, wow.
They call it a pre-commitment strategy.
So they're basically building in a safety net for their own thinking. I like that.
It's a brilliant way to counteract that.
Yeah.
Ego-driven tendency to cling to our initial predictions, even when the evidence starts to shift.
So all this talk about rethinking, what does it actually mean for us, in our daily lives? Is it just about making better decisions?
It goes even deeper than that.
Okay.
Grant argues that rethinking is fundamental to building better relationships.
Oh, wow.
Think about how often arguments become, personal attacks rather than genuine conversations.
It happens all the time, especially online.
I know, right?
People get stuck in preacher or prosecutor mode.
Yeah.
And any chance of a, productive dialogue goes out the window.
What if we approach those conversations with a scientist's mindset?
Okay.
Instead of trying to prove the other person wrong, we could genuinely seek to understand their perspective.
There's a powerful example in the book about Daryl Davis.
Oh, yeah.
A black musician who has convinced dozens of white supremacists to abandon their hateful ideology.
It's incredible, right?
It is.
And what's fascinating is that Davis doesn't engage in, heated debates with these individuals.
Okay.
He listens to them.
Asks questions.
Yeah.
And tries to understand the root of their beliefs.
He's building a bridge of, empathy and curiosity. Creating a space where genuine dialogue can actually occur.
And that dialogue, Grant emphasizes, is crucial for building a culture of learning.
Okay.
Whether it's in our workplaces, our communities, or even our homes.
This makes me think about the stories Grant shares about Pixar.
Yeah.
Apparently, their co-founder, Ed Catmull, believes one of the keys to their success is their commitment to psychological safety.
So important.
It's about creating an environment where people feel comfortable speaking up and sharing their ideas, even if those ideas are, different or challenging.
Catmull goes even further, suggesting that leaders should be willing to criticize themselves out loud. It shows vulnerability and opens the door for others to do the same.
It's about leading by example. When those at the top model confident humility.
That willingness to say, I don't know, or I was wrong, it creates a ripple effect throughout the entire organization.
It's not just about admitting mistakes, though.
Okay.
It's also about actively seeking out dissenting voices, those who can challenge our assumptions and help us see things from a new perspective.
This circles back to the idea of building both a support network and a challenge network, right?
Exactly. Yeah. The support network is there for, encouragement and reassurance, while the challenge network pushes us to grow and improve.
Okay.
Sometimes those challenge networks come from the most unexpected places, too.
Really?
Grant mentions how his wife is often his most thoughtful critic.
That's relatable.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people who know us best are the ones who can give us the most valuable feedback.
Right.
even if it's not always easy to hear. But this whole rethinking thing, it's not just about our personal lives or careers, is it?
Not at all. Grant challenges us to rethink our assumptions about education. He argues that the purpose of higher education isn't just to, download knowledge, but to build character.
Interesting.
Specifically, the character of a lifelong learner.
He mentions this Harvard study from the 1950s.
Oh, yeah.
Where students were subjected to, some pretty intense critiques of their worldview.
I remember that.
Most hated it. But a few actually enjoyed it. They saw it as a chance to, learn and grow.
It all comes back to mindset.
Right.
Rethinking isn't just about changing our minds. It's about cultivating a mindset that embraces the joy of being wrong, seeing challenges as opportunities for growth, and prioritizing curiosity and humility above all else.
It's about being open to the idea that, we don't have it all figured out, which can be a really liberating feeling.
It is.
Yeah. But I'm curious, does Grant address any of the, shall we say, more challenging aspects of rethinking?
He does. He tackles, tough issues.
Yeah.
Like political polarization and social inequality.
Right.
Emphasizing that while we should be open to, different views, there's also a need to hold people accountable for harmful or dangerous ideologies.
It's a nuanced conversation, for sure.
It is.
How does he navigate that?
He encourages moving beyond, simplistic labels like free speech versus cancel culture. He advocates for a culture of free speech that's also rooted in logic and evidence.
Right.
We should be willing to hear dissenting views, but also be ready to, subject those views to rigorous scrutiny.
So it's not about shutting down conversations, but raising the bar for the quality of those conversations.
Exactly.
I like that.
It's about engaging in difficult conversations with those who hold different beliefs. Not to win an argument, but to genuinely understand their perspective and share our own.
And to do that effectively, we need to ask the right questions. Not the kind that, put people on the defensive, but the kind that invite reflection and self-discovery.
Exactly. Questions like, what would it take for you to change your mind? Or what evidence would convince you otherwise? These could be incredibly powerful tools for, bridging divides and fostering a more constructive dialogue.
It's interesting to think about how these principles of rethinking can apply to our everyday habits too. We often rely on routines and, autopilot, which can be efficient, but it can also lead to a kind of mental stagnation.
That's why Grant, along with Angela Duckworth, who you might know for her work on grit, advocate for regular habit audits.
Habit audits. Okay.
It's about stepping back and examining those ingrained patterns, asking ourselves if they're still serving us well. Or if it's time for a, reevaluation.
It's like giving our minds a good spring cleaning. Out with the outdated mental clutter. In with fresh perspectives and new approaches.
And speaking of spring cleaning, why stop at habits? We can apply this same rethinking lens to our goals.
Oh, interesting.
Are we clinging to aspirations that no longer resonate with who we are or what we truly want?
That's a great point. It can be tough to, let go of goals, especially if we've invested a lot of time or energy in them.
That's where the sunk cost fallacy can trip us up. But Grant encourages us to, detach ourselves from those past investments and ask ourselves what truly brings us joy and fulfillment today.
It's about recognizing that our goals aren't, set in stone. They can and should evolve as we grow and change.
Exactly.
I guess that's the beauty of rethinking. It allows us to adapt and thrive in a world that's constantly in flux.
And that adaptability extends to organizations, too. Grant highlights companies like Pixar, where embracing psychological safety and challenging assumptions have been key to their incredible creativity and innovation.
He really emphasizes that the best organizations don't just view people as their most important resource. They see their people as the company.
It's a whole different way of thinking.
It's about fostering a culture where everyone feels valued,
Yeah.
respected, and empowered to contribute their best ideas.
And building that kind of culture starts at the top.
Okay.
Leaders who demonstrate, confident humility,
Uh-huh.
who openly admit their mistakes
Yeah.
and actively seek diverse perspectives.
Yeah.
Well, that can have a transformative impact on the entire organization.
So whether you're leading a team, a company, or just your own life, Grant's insights provide a valuable framework for embracing rethinking and achieving greater success.
And it's not just about success in a, conventional sense.
Right.
It's about building a better world, a world where we face challenges with curiosity instead of fear, where we seek to understand rather than judge.
Yeah.
And where we celebrate the joy of continuous learning.
It's inspiring to think about the potential we all have to rethink, unlearn, and relearn.
It is.
It's a journey that requires courage, humility, and a willingness to step outside our comfort zones.
Yeah.
But it's a journey worth taking.
Absolutely.
Because in a world that's constantly changing, that ability to, think again might be the most valuable skill we possess.
I think so.
So as you go about your day, consider this.
Okay.
What's one belief you hold dear? What would it take for you to change your mind about it?
Interesting.
Just asking those questions might spark a journey of rethinking that leads to unexpected insights and growth.
And remember, it's not about being right all the time. It's about being open to the possibility that you might be wrong.
Right.
And welcoming that possibility as a chance to, learn and evolve.
Because in the end, it's not about what we know. It's about how we think.
And if we can learn to think again, to approach the world with curious and humble minds,
right.
well, who knows what we might be capable of achieving.